Hello and welcome to the unboxing of the Kill Team GallowFall expansion. Well, I guess it's not an expansion, it's more of a core set. Anyways, I know this has become a very anticipated Kill Team box. This is the last one for the GallowFall, for the Gallowdark season. And not necessarily your last chance of getting that scenery, but as far as the scenery is concerned, it is some exclusive things. It's also one of the first, well no, the second time that we're seeing Beastmen in the 40k universe, the first time being in Blackstone Fortress. The box is exactly what you'd expect from one of the Gallowdark boxes that we've received so far. Mine got a little bit damaged during transport, but that's fine. It's it's just a box, so it's not a big deal. Anyways, some top quality artwork, everything that we've expected so far from Kill Team. Big orange box. There's a big stack of them on one of my shelves here. And of course, a plethora of sprues. Now, one of the things that's very interesting about these sprues, the one I've just shown right now on screen, the first one, is an expansion sprue for the League of Votann. We'll get back to that because it's really the important one. Everything else is, for the League of Votann, is just 3 sprues from the typical warrior set, from the Hearthkyn warrior. And if you've built some League of Votann thing, you'll be very familiar with every single option that you see there. Now, unfortunately, I decided to build the League of Votann, so I didn't spend too much time on the Beastmen. If you want to see one of the Beastmen built and painted, you can look at some of our photos from Amy from the channel, but it looks like a pretty amazing kit. It's got some really cool options and some very mutated Beastmen. These aren't your typical Age of Sigmar Beastmen as you'd expect. Now, one of the things I think makes the GallowFall box set particularly prized is some of the specific scenery that you get there. If you play Tacticus on your phone or on an app, you'll see that those escape pods are very familiar. These are a design that kind of pollinate throughout the 40k properties. Earlier you saw me also point to a malfunctioning cryopod with a skeleton in it. If you get the box and you take a look at those sprues, you'll notice a lot of very cool details, operating table, examination tables. It's all very cool, and obviously it always ties back to some of the specific rules for the Gallowdark expansions that you get. Now the books are pretty much what you'd expect. I took the time to read some of the Kill Team book, the one with some of the fluff. I didn't go through the rules too much, but the background is fairly interesting. Obviously, if you've read anything about GallowFall, this is the last box in the season. It's also the box where the Gallowdark falls to a planet. And the 2 last Kill Team that you get to play are the Beastmen and the Hearthkyn Salvagers team. And the Salvager team are facing those Beastmen because they're on their way to save some basically cogitator cores for some of the Ironkin that were caught stuck on the Gallowdark. And part of that background is interesting because you also learn more about the Beastmen, how they live in tribes inside those Space Hulks, and over thousands of years they just fight tribe against tribes. Now, what I'm just doing right now is starting to build some of the Salvager team. And as I mentioned earlier, what you get is 3 sprues. There's 3 standard sprues from the warriors, and you get that 1 extra sprue. And that 1 extra sprue is everything that you need to turn those warriors into the Salvager team. You get to see some of my absolutely ancient gear that I use for preparing miniatures. Those sprue cutters and that X-Acto, that knife are probably over a decade old, if not more. I should upgrade, but I think I have a sentimental attachment to them now. Now, if you've never built any of the Hearthkyn Warrior or any of the League of Votann models, they're some of the Games Workshop's latest models, and you can really see it in how easy they are to prepare and assemble. They're ridiculously beautiful and detailed models. You can pick out as much as you want or as little as you want out of the models once you paint them. You can just do like the undersuit and the armor, or you can go as far as to pick out like the little, there's a carabiner, there's like all the details for the head, everything. They're just gorgeous models to work on. Now, one of the things that was peculiar about my build is I'm not going to keep them as they are. I wanted to change the heads for some custom heads, and I want to change the bases. So I had to do something a little creative so I could interchange them. Now you get 10 warriors, but you get that 11th piece right there. And this is where the ingenuity come on. Like, the jump pack is nothing, it's not a different piece. Like, it's an extra piece that is added to the existing backpack on Hearthkyn Warriors. And I don't do a very good job here, but it snaps on. Like, you could potentially, without magnets, have it be removable. Of course, you also get a different set of legs to keep it dynamic, but it shows the versatility of just tossing in an extra sprue into a kit to make it into an almost completely different kit. Now, this guy looks like a 6-year-old that packed for a sleepover. He's got absolutely everything in that backpack, and there are rules, I assume, that go with that. There's also another dude that is just carrying absolutely all of the grenades, and this guy has the high-las cannon, which I'm almost surprised isn't part of the basic kit for Hearthkyn Warriors. I'm almost wondering if we'll see that sprue be added to the various the Hearthkyn Warrior kit, just because it adds some options. For the heads, since they're going to be removable, I'm going to blue tack them on the final model. But to paint them, I just put them on a piece of sprue so I could access them with ease. And for the bases, well, I'm stuck with these boring bases, and I don't want to really use any of my cool textured bases that would fit with a Space Hulk. So what I decided is to do a kind of weird synthwave, weird, almost Blackstone Fortress-ish base. For the painting, you can see my dirty finger because I've been painting a few of these figs. I'm sure more professional painters will lose their minds seeing me just hold a fig like that to give it a base coat. But what I did is essentially give them a primer with the airbrush of just a simple neutral gray. And then I did a full base coat of rust gray to give them a basic color. My plan here is to do the colors, the basic colors for the undersuit, which instead of being black like you usually see for this kind of for the box art, is I'm going to do it white, just for variety, just for fun, to give myself a challenge. And to do that, I'm doing an over sort of a zenithal airbrushing of Ulthuan Gray, which I then follow with another slightly smaller and more precise zenithal spray of White Scar. And what that's going to do is also kind of in a quote-unquote slap shop style painting. It allows me to then later, as you'll see, just put on some contrast paint over the pieces that aren't staying white, so that I still get some of those shadows from the rust gray that's kind of left over underneath. Very not the best shot there. This is not my best video, I admit. Like, I'm using some new gear and some new filming techniques, but hopefully as I get used to using them, I'll be able to do some better videos. It's not a painting tutorial either, so that's why I'm kind of flying through some of those steps. But you can see me sort of pick out some highlights here on the butt of this particular Hearthkyn warrior. I'm sure he's very happy that I'm highlighting his derriere. Now, I used some Ulthuan Gray to do the basic highlight, and then some White Scar to just give it even more of a pop. And then for the orange, instead of using a base color, I used a contrast orange. I'm sorry, like the focus didn't really catch the fig very well. The whole point is that every piece of armor is painted over with contrast paint. It gives a good coverage, especially this one, but it also allows me to have some shadows sort of built into the basic paint job. Now, this isn't exactly a Golden Demon level painting that I'm going for. I'm going for what I hope is sort of a medium-high tabletop quality. Once all the figs have their basic contrast orange, and you can kind of see that, you know, it already gives you a bit of texture, but going back and doing a bit of highlighting with some fiery orange, which I then did a second even brighter orange highlight once that was done, just to pick out some other details to make it pop a little bit more. It makes it into a 3-step process that gives you fairly decent results once everything is said and done. If you're going to be painting 40, 60 Hearthkyn warriors or any kind of mass infantry, that's probably what you want to do, is keep it to as few steps as possible. For leather, I'm basically doing a base coat of Mournfang Brown. It's my go-to when I want like a rich, warm leather. Gives some good results. It's also a fairly versatile brown. It's roughly neutral while still being fairly rich, and it's one of Games Workshop's easiest to apply base colors. Tried and tested Agrax Earthshade. Pick out some shadows on that leather. It also gives it a bit, the way Agrax Earthshade catches onto Mournfang Brown is perfect for leather. It darkens it in just the right way so that it gets exactly the kind of texture of used leather, with a couple of highlights on top of it with the Mournfang leather and a beige or an off-white. Mix those into 2 equal parts, and then maybe 1 to 3 for a second highlight, and you get some very nice leather. Like, again, not necessarily what you're going to be bringing to Golden Demon, but if you're looking for a good tabletop quality in as few steps as possible, there's no magic to it. Like, I'm using a standard Games Workshop brush. I'm not even, using any of my my more high-end material. The whole point being that I want to be able to paint this to be quickly on the tabletop and still look good. For the black, shockingly, using contrast black has become one of my go-to, even when I'm trying to paint something a little higher end, if only because it's got good coverage, it's very liquid, it doesn't give 100% coverage, but it gives quote-unquote contrast coverage, in the sense that whatever isn't black is things that you're going to want to highlight anyways, which makes it easy to go back with whatever highlighting technique you prefer to do black. And black is a tricky color to highlight. So that's the end result of 3 of the models. You can see the synthwave sort of bases. I did put some sand flock on there to make them pop a little bit more and have a little bit more texture to them. But whatever I did as far as coloring that texture, that little sand here and there, kind of got swallowed up by the airbrushing for the lighting effects for the sort of synthwave alien-esque sort of look. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, giving a like. If you have any questions or comments, you can drop them. I know that as I'm recording this to be able to put out the video, GallowFall has been sold out incredibly rapidly, and I know that frustrates a few people. Hopefully, if you wanted it, you got your hands on it. If not, I hope there's a second printing and you will be able to get it that way. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.
Materials shown in this video are provided fully or in part by Games Workshop for promotional purposes. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping us a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching.